If we exclude the insects from the million animal species classified to date, 2/3 of those remaining live in the sea. Over its vast surface, in its depths, on beaches, in swamps and mangrove swamps, rocky coasts and cliffs, the sea is an extraordinary source of life, both quantitatively and in terms of variety. Unlike the land, the sea has no natural barriers in time or space that restrict the interaction of living creatures. Homogeneity is an intrinsic feature of the aquatic environment. Temperature, salinity, the amount of sunshine, and ease of movement from one place to another are just some factors the inhabitants of the sea have been able to take advantage of in adapting to different alternatives for feeding and reproducing as they have evolved. In this, they undoubtedly have advantages over land dwellers, who also originally came from the sea. These very characteristics make interaction between the species and their interdependency that much closer, and far more susceptible to any adverse environmental change, mainly those caused by man. The ecological balance in the sea is perhaps the highest level of refinement achieved by nature, a masterclass in making use of and transferring energy through the different links in the food chains sustaining marine life. Coral reefs are the most productive biological communities in the sea. Some writers call them natural cities because their efficiency in producing resources and mutual benefits for the creatures living there is far superior to any social or productive organization created by man. Tens of thousands of different species belonging to practically all levels of biological organization coexist successfully in balanced competition for survival, and all of them depend, directly or indirectly, on the others to achieve that. Venezuela has more than 1,600 miles of shoreline, in addition to a large number of islands and archipelagos along the coastline itself and around the Lesser Antilles. Most of Venezuela's reefs are coastal and are typical both of the Caribbean and coastal zones that are undergoing a process of elevation. Generally, they do not reach any great depth. On the contrary, they project slightly out of the water, and as they grow horizontally, they contribute to the formation of cays that are then colonized by the vegetation typical of the area. While corals are present in all seas, coral reefs are only found in relatively shallow tropical waters, where changes in temperature and salinity are slight. The effect of the light also indirectly favors the deposition of calcareous skeletons on which the colonies of coral polyps settle. Among the main corals that make up the reefs are those of the Acropora genus. The elkhorn coral can be seen in areas that are beaten by the waves and where the water is shallow. The deer antler forms thickets where the water is moderately deep. Forts and large structures emerge made of corals of several different genus. Scuba diving has not only made the study of marine communities, particularly coral reefs, much easier, it has also encouraged a sport that is based on an appreciation of the value of underwater life and of recording it on film. Any scuba diver with an interest in life under the sea will easily be able to recognize and appreciate the activities of the different creatures inhabiting the reef, as we will see in this documentary. The herbivores are the pillars of the food chain. They eat the algae adhering to the corals. The parrotfish belong to this group. Not only are they brilliantly colored, they are the most common medium-sized and large fish on the reef. They have a powerful lower jaw, and their teeth are welded together and look like a strong beak. They tear off chunks of dead coral, metabolize the algae, and excrete the rest as sand. The angelfish also include algae in their diet. Their flat disc shape and their elegance give them a unique personality among reef inhabitants. They defend themselves from predators by raising the spikes on their fins. The young of a number of the angelfish species look like one another, usually black with yellow stripes, but differ from the adults. The most common is the black angelfish with an easily distinguishable ring around its eyes, its vertical stripes, and yellow scales that stand out against the black background. The gray angelfish is the largest of the 7 species found in the Caribbean. The rock beauty, with its characteristic yellow and black coloring, is very shy. The beautiful queen angelfish, which owes its name to the blue crown on its head, is undoubtedly the most lovely of all. The cowfish and trunkfish have a rigid outer layer that makes them difficult to swallow. They move about by energetically flapping their pectoral and anal fins. The cowfish have a distinctive spike over each eye that looks like a small horn. They can change their color at will to match their environment. When they flee, they turn the same blue as their surroundings. The trunkfish have a triangular body and are white and black. They are normally solitary. Members of the triggerfish family are also commonly found on the reef. The black durgan is a triggerfish that is capable of standing its spine on end to prevent it from being taken out of the recesses it goes into to protect itself. It is timid and normally solitary. It is very unusual to see a group of them such as this. The white-spotted filefish can change its color at will to camouflage itself and blend in with its surroundings. The scrawled filefish has an elongated body. Normally shy of people, this time it let us observe it in all its splendor. The beautiful, ornate queen triggerfish has eyes set far back on its head, which enables it to even eat urchins without risking injury to its eyes. Damselfish are very lively, small fish that patrol and fiercely guard their algae patch in amongst the corals, attacking anything that encroaches on its domain, no matter how big or fierce. The urchins defend themselves with their steely spikes. They also scrape algae off the corals, where they usually dig galleries. Sponges are members of the filterers, another important group of reef organisms. They have an enormous number of microscopic orifices through which they absorb the water around them. These orifices lead to channels and larger chambers. The sponge absorbs the nutrients it needs from the water through its permeable body, made up of very simple cells, and releases the waste products back into the water, along with the water that has already been filtered through large holes that can easily be seen. Hard corals are made up of tiny polyps that draw food particles into the coral's mouth. Soft corals are like marine trees, although they are in fact made up of small polyps that are similar to those in hard corals and perform the same feeding function. The anemone unfurls and waves its tentacles to draw food into its mouth. It possesses stinging cells called nematocytes that excrete a toxic substance that paralyzes its victims. Some organisms, such as these small shrimps of the Paraclemens genus, have developed immunity to the nematocysts and live taking advantage of the protection afforded it by the anemone. This is a symbiotic arrangement where both benefit. The host anemone protects the shrimp against predators and in exchange obtains small scraps of the food the shrimp eats. The anemone has a similar symbiotic arrangement with some species of fish. The arrow crab, too, is often seen taking refuge among the anemone's tentacles. The jellyfish move waving their stinging elements. They can hurt people if touched. Nudibranches are snails without a shell. Their eye-catching appearance is a warning to predators of imminent danger, as they eat anemones and store the nematocysts to defend themselves. Crinoids, also filtering organisms, stretch out their tentacles to trap food. They are related to the starfish. The sea cucumbers belong to the same group. They filter the sand to extract the food they need. Large schools of fish have always attracted man's attention for a variety of reasons. It is precisely thanks to their grouping together in shoals that some species of fish have been able to survive. The shoal has a large number of lookouts on the watch for an attack by a predator, and they trigger a whole series of defensive reactions in the group as a whole, distracting the predator from its initial objective. The surgeonfish is carnivorous and moves about in large schools during the daytime in search of food. Its defense is based on the steely spikes it has on both sides of its tail fin. Some carnivorous fish that are inhabitants of the coral reef or that visit it frequently to feed have some peculiar characteristics worthy of mention. The lizardfish lies unseen on the sea bottom waiting for its prey to come close enough to be able to pounce on it, using the same movements as when it flees from a predator such as man. The scorpionfish uses the same technique as the lizardfish. Sometimes it is very difficult to see and can be dangerous if stepped on, as it has poisonous spiky spokes on its dorsal fin. Rays feed on crustaceans and mollusks, which they suck in with their ventral mouth. Normally, they are camouflaged in the sand where they get their food. They have got themselves a bad name thanks to the poisonous spikes on their tail fin, which they only use as a defense mechanism. They always flee when confronted with a potential aggressor. Morays are also misunderstood. Their fierce appearance and horrifying gaze are their main defense. The supposedly threatening opening and shutting of their jaws is nothing more than a physiological mechanism for pumping water to the gills so that they can breathe. Like the rays, the morays prefer flight to fighting. The barracuda is another carnivore about which legends have been woven because of how it feeds, throwing itself on schools of fish, gnashing its jaws. This mechanism is a consequence of its evolution, not a killer instinct as many would like to think. In spite of the barracuda's curiosity, it is difficult to take a look at it face to face, because it withdraws as soon as it's confronted. Here are some other common inhabitants of the reef. The butterfly fishes, which feed on small organisms that they extract with their elongated mouth. Their defense is based on camouflage. See how they disguise their eyes behind a black stripe. Other species have a false eye on the base of their tail to confuse predators. The flounder is a fish that lies on its side, not on its stomach like other fish. The eye on the underside migrates to the upper side when it's just a few weeks old. The pectoral fin appears to be the dorsal fin, and the other fins surround its body, enabling it to make its characteristic undulating movements as it swims. It can lighten or darken the color of its body to blend into its environment. Jacks, members of the tuna group, are open-sea predators that occasionally come to the reef in search of small fish and crustaceans. They have large eyes and forked fins for greater speed. Snappers are triangular-headed fish with a single continuous dorsal fin. The school masters usually band together in small shoals in the shadow of the large gorgonians or hard corals. They tend to keep away from man. The yellowtail snappers are highly conspicuous and fearless. They easily become accustomed to being fed by divers, as we can see here. The hogfish gets its name from the first 3 large spikes on its dorsal fin that stand on end. They are found deep in the ocean and occasionally in the reefs. They swim about constantly. The chromides are seen during the day swimming in large groups in the reef, feeding on plankton. The groupers are a large family of fish with a large body and prominent projecting lower jaw. They have a long, continuous dorsal fin that is divided in 2. The first half consists of sharp spikes that it can raise or lower at will, and the second is soft and flexible. They are solitary carnivores that live near the bottom of the sea. They are tame creatures, and this has made them easy prey for harpoon fishermen. Besides, they're good to eat. They spend much of their time in the shadow of boats and corals, where they blend with the seabed thanks to their ability to change color and their stripes at will. Groupers are commonly seen in the so-called cleaning stations, where they go for the small cleaner fish to remove any parasites. The balloonfish can inflate its body with water when it is in danger. This makes its spikes stand up on end, making it difficult to swallow. The spotted drum gets its name from the loud drum-like sounds it makes. Its fin is proportionally longer in the young fish, and they wave it gracefully as they move through the water. The trumpet fish is identified by its elongated shape and strange swimming style. When it is in danger, it hides among the gorgonians. The spiny lobster, always very active at night, is another inhabitant usually found in the reef. In some areas, where there are large numbers of them, they can also be seen in the daytime, both inside and outside their caves. The batwing coral crab is much sought after by the octopus and by man. The hermit crab is a soft-bodied species that makes use of the shells left by snails, moving into them and carrying them everywhere like a mobile home. As they grow, they have to find larger shells. The tiny banded reef shrimp is a brightly colored species that specializes in eating parasites on fish. Here, however, we see one waiting to catch them as they float by. Eels are like sea snakes. They have no teeth and practically no dorsal fin. They have distinctive marks on their bodies that distinguish them from the moray. They are nocturnal hunters, although they are sometimes seen feeding during the day. The small garden eels retreat into their burrows in the sand as a diver passes. The grunts are reef carnivores that move about in large shoals. They can be identified by the prominent yellow stripes along their bodies. They live in the reefs in shallow water, usually at a depth of between 10 and 20 meters. Here is a squid, elegantly performing its graceful ballet. The nurse shark is quite harmless if left alone. It is always found at the bottom of the sea or in caves where it lives and obtains its food. What we have seen is only a small sample of the wealth of fauna in Venezuela's reefs. The more we learn about these structures, the better we understand that they do not come about by chance. They are part of a large, interrelated scheme that is highly efficient at recycling energy, and yet extremely vulnerable to any changes brought from outside by man.